First up this afternoon on our work session is an update on our North Main connector. And Kaylin Owens from our project management office is leading the effort. And Kaylin, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce the team and to run us through a presentation for today.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Gibson got us a sneak peek. You're not going to hear that much from me for this time, so thank your lucky stars. Yeah, so we have been working diligently on this project over the last 6 months or so. We've had a couple of public meetings that you remember probably hearing about and some updates. And now we're kind of at the point where we're ready to do a little bit of a temperature check on the project to make sure that everybody understands where we're at in it, what we've done to date, some of the things we have decided, some of the things we haven't decided, and kind of open the floor for a really kind of open forum conversation about where we're at and hopefully giving us some direction as we're taking final steps of this feasibility piece of the project. So the project has been split into two really defined pieces, the feasibility piece, which we're in right now, and then we will shift into engineering mode whenever we have kind of a final decision on the routing and the treatment of the routing that will be after this point. And so there will be a report that goes along with this, as well as a summary of the community input that you guys will have at your fingertips. And then I do want to let you know that we are where we're at in the project it's still a little bit open-ended because we have one more check-in with the public that we're planning on doing in the next month or so. So we're kind of aiming for end of November, beginning of December for the next public process. That's going to be talked about a little bit more in depth by Jean. But with all that said, I want to introduce Jean Crowther with Alta Planning. She's going to be taking it from here. And then we also have a couple other team members from AECOM, Emily and Todd. If we have any engineering specific questions, they're going to be taking notes as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Jean.
Great.
Oh, and if y'all don't mind holding questions until she gets all the way through it, I think there might be a lot of information that you're gonna have questions on, but she might be able to answer before we get to that.
Write them down.
Good luck.
Well, I'm Jean Crowther. I'm a principal with Alta and director of planning for our East Coast offices. And like Kaylin said, I'm working closely with our team here at AECOM. We want to focus today on sharing with you what we've learned through this process to date and how we're thinking about the next steps and decision making for creating a North Main connector. So as I'm sure you all know, the purpose of this is to connect the North Main community with the Swamp Rabbit Trail and really just having connections in and out of this community and having over 5,000 residents who have safe and convenient and accessible ways to get around and experience Greenville. We, as Kaylin said, we're in phase one, which is focused on the feasibility piece. That's what we're sharing today. And we still have further to go and further decision making before we switch into phase two for trail design. In addition to the technical team of consultants, we've been working closely with city staff, of course, but also with a technical committee that's included representatives from North Main and North Main organizations, as well as business owners and advocates for walking and biking who are in touch with current needs and opportunities for that in the neighborhood, as well as SCDOT, of course. And for this type of project, we just wanted to acknowledge that we really work to take a 360-degree approach to decision making. We want to be intentional and thoughtful from beginning to end to ensure we have an intentional and thoughtful routing and design. We're going to have a technical approach, field work, really getting out and walking the terrain, as well as taking very seriously and incorporating public input from landowners who we've had direct conversation with, and also input from you all as decision makers and other stakeholders. In terms of where we're at in the schedule, we kicked this off back in the spring and we've been working diligently since then. We're now here into the fall and we are approaching, kind of looking ahead to our next public open house. As Kaylin said, that'll be in early December. We're expecting to be able to go back to the community and show the preferred routing that's recommended and also share kind of the results of further thinking around design concepts at that next open house. That will also include an opportunity to have targeted input from residents through a survey so that those who are along a proposed route are going to have a chance to give direct input at that stage. So we want to jump right into sharing with you what we came up with as the potential routes for creating a North Main connector. I do want to say we came in with a very open mind, and also the technical committee members, the residents who participated, had been thinking about this and had ideas to share where they thought there could be opportunities for routes. We explored all of those and ultimately came back to essentially a short list of routes that needed further examination, further analysis. And so what you see here are the route alternatives that we studied in depth, and we'll walk through these individually. But just to orient you, this is the North Main neighborhood with up to the north, we have Rutherford Road and businesses like Otherlands, and then kind of connecting over to the old rail corridor that would include a new county small private trail segment. And then moving north to south or down in the neighborhood, you can see how we're ultimately connecting to Wade Hampton Boulevard, the area with Community Tap and other retail destinations, Harris Teeter. And so really it was working within this space that we were hoping to find the best opportunities for connecting the community. We did divide this up into 3 different sections that we'll refer to. The northern section is north of Rutherford Road. The middle section is this big kind of north-south connection we're working to figure out, including both the segments in red and pinkish color, as well as the blue segments that would connect over to Mohawk Drive. And then the southern section is that final little gap from Mohawk Drive to get over to Wade Hampton Boulevard. So we looked at those each independently. To walk through these, each of these sections, in the northern section, we ended up with 2 primary ways to make this connection. Both would start at that rail bed and connect directly to that future trail linkage. 1A would kind of skirt around and go down Graves Drive, where it's a very kind of industrial and warehousey area there, but a roadway right of way that could provide opportunity for a connection. The other option is 1B, which would go down Renwick Drive. This is a little bit more residential. There's homes over there and would provide a different type of experience that could also connect over and then loop around at Rutherford Road. Both of them would end at that intersection of Rutherford Road and North Main. We have conceptual cross sections here. I do want to acknowledge these are both options that we determined feasible and have had conversations with business owners and landowners in this area, but they would need to be a part in any kind of final routing or final design options as this moves forward. Moving from there to the middle section, this is a really critical piece in the North Main connector, of course, and through this process, we landed on 2 main options for this. 2A would send the connector down North Main Street. 2B would have to travel along Rutherford Road and then cross and connect down Summit Drive. We've shared both of these in the community engagement process and explored them. Ultimately, we ended up identifying multiple design options for the North Main Street corridor that we're going to walk through. But I just want to focus right now on the 2 main routing options as distinct in terms of what we're exploring. And then North Main will talk more specifically about how that roadway right-of-way could be used. I will mention, each of these options in the middle section connecting from Rutherford Road down to Mohawk Drive are within the public road right-of-way. That was, kind of a critical element that we ended up deciding on was going to make these the most feasible options compared to other options that we did explore early on. So each of these 4 design options, I'll walk through each of them, but we have the North Main Greenway, which is 2A1, what we call the Strollway, which is 2A2. 2A3 is called the Neighborhood Promenade, and 2A4 is North Main Side Path. Each is using that same right-of-way, but just in slightly different ways. So this option, the North Main Greenway, would, within that same right-of-way, it would on one side of the roadway, it would add a greenway or side path type facility and have room for a buffer between the path and traffic. And you gain that space by tightening up the median on the North Main corridor. Still room for tree plantings and also room in that grassy buffer for amenities like lighting and creating a nice wide greenway corridor along one side of the roadway. Looking again at the existing conditions, and then the second option, the strollway, is really a different take on that same right-of-way space. This is focused on reimagining the corridor to create more of kind of a linear park along the North Main corridor, really creating a significant amount of space by removing the space that is now the median and kind of shifting vehicular travel to one side of that North Main corridor. So you have 2 lanes of traffic, going side by side, which is different than the current cross section. And with the space that you're gaining, you have room to have this kind of gently meandering path, room for new tree plantings along that greenway corridor, room for designated parking along certain spots there, and an opportunity for that kind of gentle weave to give you some design flexibility along the corridor of where the greenway is intersecting with cross streets, with driveways, with different elements along the way. This also tightens up the travel lanes, which generally was seen as a benefit for slowing traffic along North Main, which we heard again and again was something that residents wanted in one way or another. However, we could work to help slow traffic along that corridor was going to be a benefit. This also, of course, by having an opportunity to provide some designated parking and tightening up those lanes, it's going to reduce the incidence of illegal parking along the corridor by kind of changing that designation. The third option, called the neighborhood promenade, is a very unique and different approach. And this imagines taking the median along North Main and actually making it wider and creating a greenway path along that entire center corridor, allowing room for new tree plantings in that median, other amenities like lighting and benches, and having those 2 lanes of travel separated with the greenway facility in between. This would require additional work and treatment at the cross streets in particular. Given that the greenway users would be traveling in the middle there, we would just need extra attention as it moved forward in design to ensure that the cross street traffic knew how to successfully navigate each of those cross streets. And the fourth option, the North Main side path, is an option that maintains more of the cross section as it currently is now and adds a side path on one side of the North Main corridor. So this would retain the current median width with the trees as it is now, and would work to include a side path on one side. It would likely vary in width depending on some of the constraints as they change along the corridor. And would potentially have opportunities for designated parking in certain spots along the corridor also. Those are the 4 options on North Main. As I mentioned, we did also look closely at the Summit Drive option. You can see here a potential cross section. This would have been a greenway facility on one side of the roadway. Through the engagement process, it was clear that this was not the preferred option, and in large part due to having to connect along Rutherford Road and what that portion of this route would create the kind of experience along there, and a preference for the more greenway-like experience that could be offered on North Main. This also, the concept we came up with also could include room for parking on one side.
This Summit or Rutherford?
Summit,
That right there.
Yes.
That's what you're
Yes.
saying. Okay.
yeah.
And you have to go along Rutherford about.
Right, yeah. And it would be a side
distance.
facility along Rutherford, yeah.
Okay.
And then looking further at how either of those routes would connect over to Mohawk Drive, we came up with multiple options. Looking first at 3A, which is Galavan Street, that would essentially be the North Main corridor connecting all the way down to Galavan, and then jumping over east to Mohawk. That option, or we also looked at what's called 3B, which would be Hillcrest Drive off of North Main and then connecting down Parkwood Drive. That option we looked at closely. In particular, it would reduce some of the slope changes that we had heard a lot of discussion around. But ultimately, the community input was more in favor of Galavan, and we explored what that concept could look like. If you look at the east section, the current versus an added greenway facility along that street, it essentially is within the road right of way fully and would allow for 2 lanes of traffic and a comfortable facility that really improves access along that corridor. Looking on the west side, similarly, with room for a buffer as well, adds, a nice amenity to the street and great connectivity. And then if we switch down to the southernmost section, connecting over to Wade Hampton Boulevard, we found 2 options, and in exploring those, found that 4A, which is moving through Stones Point development, was going to be the most feasible. And this, like the northern section, is an element that would need to involve close coordination with the landowners, just in terms of final routing and design. They would be a partner in that process.
We don't really refer to it as Stones Point. I know, it's the community tab, going through the community tab.
Yes, everyone knows the community.
Yeah, that's right.
Great. And to share with you what we all heard through the engagement process, we really had a fantastic response from the community and participating. Over 860 community members engaged. We had virtual engagement. We had great attendance at our in-person open house events. 2 different events. We shared as much information as we could about this process. And I'll just comment, as someone who works on these types of plans all over the country, and I've done this for over 2 decades, I was absolutely impressed, not just with the turnout, but the level of interest and thoughtfulness that community members had in this process. It's a difficult undertaking to find the right solution in a community for a facility like this, and everyone came with a strong interest in the value of the Swamp Rabbit Trail to the Greenville community, a strong interest in having safe and connected neighborhood, and really was sharing very real opinions and thoughts about the concerns, the challenges, things they were worried about, things they were hopeful about. It was really thoughtful input that actually very much helped us craft, kind of where to go next in this. So I just wanted to acknowledge that it was a very involved neighborhood in this process. To share what we heard, I've already mentioned that really kind of loud and clear through the multiple ways we enabled people to give input. The North Main Street corridor and the Galavan Street corridor came out on top, is very much being preferred. And that was for a number of reasons, but also very much aligned with the results of our technical work, which will share that evaluation. So if we kind of piece together what that input showed us from the community engagement, 1A, which would connect, again, kind of up near Otherlands, cross over Rutherford, down North Main, jutting over east on Galavan, and then connecting at the community tap, is the route that has risen to the top at this point.
Click the.
And if we look at the technical process that we engaged in, we really focused this decision-making on constructability within the right-of-way, community input and what we're hearing through this process, and having an objective way to essentially score alternatives against each other to really understand where the best opportunity lies. That scoring process included 7 different criteria. This was one of those elements that we shared with the public in one of the first open house of, are these the right criteria? And that input helped us refine what we should be looking at. We had a process to really look at each alternative one by one, including even alternatives that early in the process we had deemed infeasible. We were able to document this whole process, and this will be part of the final report as well. And this includes a criteria for public and stakeholder support, which we're showing now. We've been including that in the results to date. That will continue to be updated as we receive more input through this process. The results of that objective evaluation process are shown here, section by section. And ultimately, this is where our kind of technical scoring process really aligned with what we were hearing from the community, seeing opportunities along Graves Drive at the community tap development, and then along North Main and on Taliban. And we also understand, of course, that ultimately feasibility is also tied to cost considerations. As this process moves further towards design, there'll be more detail and more clarity around that. But we did have an opportunity to look at how each of the routes was scoring based on the performance of that matrix of what we're calling performance is those 7 criteria. Was it high, medium, or low against what we recognize as the potential cost? And so that's on the horizontal axis as low, medium, or high anticipated cost per mile. And so we plotted this out as an informational tool so you can get a sense of where these alternatives lie and what kind of trade-offs to be thinking about moving forward. 3A and 4A, both part of that preferred route, scored very high in terms of performance and also low in terms of cost. And there's a lot to consider here. And as I mentioned, we'll continue to update this. With that, I'll just bring it back to where we're at with schedule. We very much want this to be an open discussion today and answer any questions you all have. Make sure you feel comfortable with where we're at and where we anticipate going next. And, we'll update you as we finalize a date for that final open house, and also certainly as we receive input from that in the upcoming survey.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm going to reserve the right for a strong opinion because I think I have a strong opinion, but we've got another public input, and I don't want to anyway skew that or influence that. Not that I would or could, but I think I'm going to wait for that. But just recognizing, first of all, thank you for this work. The positives are incredible. I've heard from North Main neighbors for 7 years now wanting a connection to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. We're really maybe one of the only areas that don't have direct access to it. And so I know we are really excited about getting that access. And then also the North Main neighbors have for years as well wanted some type of sidewalk. I mean, they weren't talking in terms of this, right? They were just saying, wouldn't it be nice if we had a sidewalk that went all the way down North Main? So wherever it goes on North Main, I think is something that folks have wanted to be able to, have their kids or themselves be able to safely go up and down North Main. Because right now what people do, and I know that's not recommended, but what they do is they use the bike lane to walk, right? And so, particularly in areas where there's not a sidewalk, and I don't know if everybody understands that, but there are sections that have a sidewalk on North Main. So, it's steep. Well, and it's steep on the sides too. Goes down like that. So I know our North Main folks are going to be really excited about this twofold for that reason. I do know that our North Main neighbors are very prickly about those medians, so that's obviously something we'll have to consider. But really, I'm just really excited about being able to get, I don't know, did you do how many homes are in North Main? Does anyone have any idea how many homes are in North Main?
That's how many people participated,
Okay.
not homes.
Well, there are hundreds, if not a few thousand homes in North Main. And And for them to be able to connect us to the trail is outstanding. Right now, what people do to connect to the trail is they either bike or by foot, they'll either go down, all the way down Main and connect with it right at the river here, or they'll go, they'll take Mulberry and go to the, kind of by the Amtrak station, go under and then go over there to connect over by the Commons. To say, that's just to say, there's no easy way to get to the Swamp Avenue Trail from North Main folks, so.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And to, one thing observed about this, we're having a good turnout, now that we have real lived experience with trails in Greenville, I'm sure it's different from, because I remember the time when we were talking about trails and we really didn't know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
sure.
But I have a question for the neighborhood, it's interesting, so y'all haven't had any pushback about the so-called connecting trail being in front of people's houses and things like that? Did that come up as an issue, like in North Main, you're gonna be right in front of people's houses?
Are
Are
you
you used to hear that
Sorry.
kind of?
Yeah.
are you remembering Parkinsville or not?
So I'll say that it is a palpable difference from the early era of the Swamp Rabbit Trail. And, you know, NIMBY is a term that a lot of people know, not in my backyard. And that's not,
Not in my front yard.
well, not in my front yard. So I will say that there is a cautious optimism about it existing. I think the devil's in the details for everybody about what actually the implication is.
Yeah.
The only hard no that I recall hearing was actually on Summit Drive, not on North Main. I talked directly with a number of people that lived on North Main Street, and they were very excited at the prospect of having direct
That's
access.
really great to hear and very different from years ago.
Yes, Counselor Dow.
I just have a couple of, I don't know, maybe these are too deep in the
Can I,
details.
just real quick, I just jump in, I've been getting feedback and there is cautious optimism, but you know, there is a segment of folks that, you know, just want to see what the details are gonna be. Sorry, Dorothy.
On Gallivan, do you mind going to that slide where you show the Gallivan route? We should be beginning. Right, okay, so.
With one of these renderings.
Okay, yes.
The east end of Gallup.
So with that concept, which y'all said was the most favored by feedback, right now, they parallel park on there, I think on both sides.
Not on this section, this is in between Summit and Mohawk, so Mohawk's at the very top, which you are correct, from Summit
Summit to North
to
Main.
North
And
Main.
in that, is
There are
everything, wait a minute, so I got.
That's right, you're right, yes.
Yeah,
Yep,
so,
yep,
so
right there.
aren't you, yeah, there.
Yep.
So now those households will no longer have parking in front of their house.
There will be scenarios where on-street parking, ability to on-street park would be removed. I think that the full impact of that, whether we can salvage it on one side in certain places is TBD because we don't have survey yet. We're in the feasibility of routes. So right now we know Gallivan Street is the correct route to take. The actual treatment is in the same vein as North Main. We don't know exactly. So this is kind of concept level design.
So what happens over where I live, in that similar scenario, you're allowed to park on Cleveland Street where I live, but nobody wants to do it for whatever reason. And so they tend to use that parking down at Serene Stadium as kind of community parking. So I would expect if you take it away, and I don't know how the soda shop feels about that, and they may be doing it now.
Yeah.
You know, the natural tendency is gonna be to be parking in that parking lot. So just, I don't know, something.
The good thing about this road is that it is a really nice wide road.
Well, that's why I'm wondering when you add that, like this picture makes it look like, they're not gonna allow parallel parking
Right.
with that, but I recognize just a picture, but that's something to.
So perhaps,
I want to ask.
so, yeah,
Okay, then I think I understood you, but with the exception of section 1 and section 4. So within section 2 and section 3, regardless of the option, but zeroing in on the options that you see the community narrowing in on, are you saying we can do it within the right of way
Yep.
that we already have?
Yep.
We've established that. Okay. All right, last question then. If you went the meandering route to the strollway.
2A2.
I saw this at Grove and it was kind of like, oh, this really kind of wakes you up. when you cross in front of someone's driveway with the strollway, is it trail law that you paint that crosswalk that's crossing in front of their driveway the green?
It would not be a law, but it is best practice for visibility. So we would have to look at that.
It's a biggie, like you see it, you go, wow, there it is.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different ways to kind of tackle that, material change. It doesn't necessarily have to be green paint. We do that on roadways just because now when
Okay.
you see green, you think bikes,
stop.
right? So,
Well, it's the point of conflict are people coming in and out of their driveway and someone's pushing a stroller,
Yep.
right? And there's a period of time where you go through a adaptability. If they're used to looking for cars, now they gotta look for cars. I would just say that's a detail that will really matter, to your point about when you're going in front of someone's house, whether it's in the right of way or not, they believe that's their property. And whether you, I would say a lot of community focus, if that's the final place we end up on what it looks like or feels like at each driveway point to make sure you have buy-in. Not everybody's gonna agree, but it's gonna be a big deal.
I think the other big deal too, of course, is just recognizing how much of someone's, we all know what a right of way is, but to Dorothy's point,
Not everybody,
not everybody,
most
most
don't
don't.
know what right of way is.
Right. And so I think another, consideration we have to look at too is if we do it on the side, how much chunk of someone's front yard, regardless if it's in the right of way, but how much chunk of that front yard we're gonna take. We ran into that a little bit on Chick Springs as well. And our team did an unbelievable job.
We need Eddie.
We
involved.
need Eddie's.
We need Eddie
yeah,
involved. Well, the other thing is they absorb responsibility for maintaining the curb lawn. So right now, somebody's mowing their grass, they just run it. They're gonna have to run it and then get that extra section. These are the little
The
details,
little
but
things,
the
yeah.
little things, but the
Yeah.
little things really matter when you're running a public pathway through.
Yeah, so the macro level, of course, is like thumbs up to connectivity, right?
Yes, and
Right.
this has been,
Yeah.
this has been on the radar for years. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
wonderful that we're to this point.
Yeah.
But we are, as we get narrowed down on the style and route, those little details that we might assume people know,
Right.
they probably don't about what it's gonna end up looking like and feeling like in the end, and that's in
Yeah.
the,
And
that's in the
consensus-
design.
Consensus is.
Well, predictability and no surprises at the end of what it's gonna look like. I want to make sure they
Yeah,
know
just
that.
real quick. Go back to your first slide, the one where you show the proposed connections, please.
There.
When are you guys thinking about putting those in?
The yellow lines.
Yeah, the yellow with the green.
So those are gonna be studied kind of in conjunction whenever we have we get into the engineering phase, whatever's feasible. So that's not really an answer. I understand that. To give you an example, the potential connection for the Cropstone neighborhood up there on the top right.
Mm-hmm.
I've already spoke with DOT as part of the analysis to see if 2B would be feasible, what the treatment along Rutherford would be. There are some issues with the ability to do that. And until we get into the point where we're engineering this thing, I can't say what is and is not. These are all kind of wishes at this point, but nothing that is really formally scoped as part of the project.
Let me ask this a different way then. Assuming that the engineering works out, is this something that you guys are talking about building at the same time that you build these, or is this something that you're talking about
Yes.
building sometime
Yeah.
later on in the future?
No, okay, as part of this, as much as feasible. I just don't know how many of them are feasible at this point.
Okay, good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stahl.
I'm very surprised that the public prefers the strollway, and getting rid of the median. The median
Kind of
to
surprised.
me has been, that's kind of signature of North Main to me, and I'm surprised at that. That's just a comment. The other, and I know you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but based on other projects you've done, what kind of cost do you think this is gonna ballpark?
We're not,
Too early.
yeah, we're not quite at that point.
Yes. We just don't have enough information at this point to
Okay.
even make it.
He may be getting ready to make a donation, so.
All right, any other questions before we wrap this item up for today? Thank you, Kaylin. Thank y'all very much.
Yeah, thank y'all.
And we will let y'all know and the community know as soon as we schedule the next public meeting. But we think before the end of the year, correct, Caleb?
Correct.
So before the end of 2025, we will have our next community meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item on the agenda today is a discussion about some potential business license changes that we would be looking at to enact before the end of the year. This is a requirement under state law since there were some changes several years ago about having consistency across municipalities for business license. And so with that, I will turn it over to Patricia, our CFO, who's going to go through our business license updates and a couple of options that we want to talk to y'all and seek your guidance on. So Patricia.
Okay, I'll try to catch up, make up some time here too. So really, we're gonna discuss I'll provide a quick overview of the required 2025 NAICS code changes, the background and purpose associated with those changes, the projected impact of those code classification changes. I'd like to present some different options are here, how council would like to respond to those changes. We have a couple of process improvements that we'd like to discuss based on the current structure. And then, close up with the required actions as well as any questions and or comments. So background and purpose under South Carolina Act 176 of 2020, the Standardization Act, municipalities are required to update their business license classifications every odd year, with the most recent North American Industry Classification System, NAICS codes. The new classification applies to license years starting May 1st through 2026. And then we would be back in front of council. So the impact of the classification changes. So we have two NAICS code changes that are increasing by one class. Mining, which has zero impact as we have no mining businesses.
They're all pretty great. Blowing up a lot of rocks.
And then transportation and housing is also increasing. And the way the class scale works, I should add that the lower the class, the lower the rates, and the higher the class, the higher the rates. So we have approximately 100 businesses in the transportation and warehousing NAICS code that would be experiencing slightly higher rates. And then we have 4 NAICS codes decreasing by one class. So roughly, just slightly less than 4,500 businesses looking to decrease rates. It equates to about 250,000, roughly. And I should add that this analysis, when I talk about the numbers or differences, I'm excluding any class 8 businesses, which are contractors, railroads, and other regulatory agencies. So projected revenue options, option 1, of course, is to accept the revenue decrease, maintain the existing rate structure. Again, that's around $250,000 decrease based on the 2025 gross revenues that were submitted. And then option 2 is to adjust the rates to maintain neutral revenue impact. It is important to say that based on under the Standardization Act, class 1 through 7 businesses, if you increase, they cascade. If you increase 1, it cascades. There's supposed to be a level or a difference between each class. So it's not like you can just adjust one class and not the others. The requested process improvements is a proposal that any nonprofit or exempt entity that is not required to hold a business license be required to file an annual registration at a flat fee. That's up for discussion. Currently today, they've exempt organizations file a one-time only fee. So this is really just thought to be an improvement as to, for fire, for codes, have a good handle, from a GIS perspective where nonprofits are located.
To even know they exist.
to even know they exist, correct?
How much is that one-time fee?
You know, we would be looking at a minimal, currently it's $50 at the point of registration, and I think we'd be looking at like maybe a $25 nominal annual fee. You know, not looking to make money off of this, but just looking for, information really, and make sure that our, you know, our databases are updated with the most current information. Also, you know, recommending eliminating the declining scale for resident contractors outside city gross receipts, and implementing a flat fee structure instead. Currently, their outside city gross receipts are at 30 cents per thousand. I can run various scenarios, you know, for y'all to consider, but that process, requires manual calculations for the revenue division. It's complicated. It's different, you know, it's especially complicated when, applying discounts, you know, for the businesses that apply early, you know, they get a 2% discount. So, that's really, just, would, you know, improve or eliminate inefficiencies and potential errors. So, and then the final one is coming from the police department and, you know, recommending, background checks for certain personal service businesses, say massage parlors, things of that nature. So, today we do not, require that. So the required action, so by December 31st, you know, it is a requirement by state law to move these, based on these NAICS classifications, to their appropriate schedules that comes from the MASC. And then, of course, with any changes, we would communicate those classification and any rate changes, to businesses prior to the 2026 renewal cycle. Really today, wanted to get a feeling from council as to, thoughts on the, business, you know, improvements, as well as any potential rate changes, in order to target neutrality. So
Thank you, Patricia. Anything else?
that's it.
Okay, Councilmember Dow and then Councilmember DeWarke.
Can you go back to, it's one of your first slides.
Sure.
It's the one where you talk about,
Keep going.
all right, hold it, go one more. I mean, sorry, go forward, hold it there. Okay. You said, I thought I heard you say, the higher the number,
The higher the class,
the higher the class, the more they pay.
correct. So we
Okay.
have 2 increasing classes,
Okay?
and we have,
Approximately 100 businesses, their number is gonna go up.
correct,
The amount they pay. If we did nothing, they're gonna go up.
correct,
4 going down.
correct.
100 businesses are gonna go up,
4,500 are gonna go down.
4,500 going down. And if we did nothing but accept these changes, I'm assuming our business revenue, I know they're based on what their earnings are, don't know what's in transportation and warehousing, but our net revenues from business licenses would go down.
By about 250,000.
Okay, by about 250.
Unless we took the second option, right?
Unless
We,
we do one of the things you're recommending.
right, and which aren't necessarily presented here, but we can go through various scenarios of, you know, ways that we can change the base or per thousand. Yeah,
I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is, given the substantial percentage it is of our revenue,
correct.
I think accepting it without changing anything is not something I'm supportive of.
Okay.
Looking for what the options are.
Okay.
And we've got the scenarios.
Okay.
They're just very in the weeds, and we wanted to go through the overview.
Wanted to
first.
get like a feel
And get the
first.
feel before we got into that much level of detail,
Okay.
because it is very detailed.
It's very,
I don't bet that.
Yes.
I do like the idea of, you know, in terms of.
I have them.
Something, because on our nonprofit sector, we're so fortunate to have so many
Yes.
in the city. But if they're brick and mortar, they're not paying property tax, right? So we don't know who they are.
Or
And
where they are.
Or where they
Karen,
are.
Karen can speak to this too. They might have a CO where they relocated and didn't necessarily notify us.
Right,
So,
and it gets, I mean, a fee system, to Russell's point, maybe what he was leaning towards was, how high are we talking about?
we're
I don't know.
we're not looking to make money.
It does,
off
it
this.
is the information that's helpful to us in understanding where the private resources are.
Absolutely, when the fire department goes in to do their checks, they're looking for certificate of occupancy and a business license.
Sure.
And.
There's no
they're gonna
business
question-
license
Right, they're
right
gonna
now.
question, I provided them have one now for that.
Right. So now they'd be looking for, annual renewal fee or whatever.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And it would allow us to also update our GIS system for location, you know, and, other benefits, you know, so.
Thank you, Councilmember Dow. Councilmember Dworkin?
Yeah, from our conversations, it's clear to me that y'all have been working very hard to make sure that no one got a sticker shock, that your increases are gonna be those, you know, those single digit kind of increases where someone's gonna understand that prices,
Minimal.
that things go up, but it's not a, oh my gosh, I can't believe, right? So y'all
Right.
worked really hard on that, just appreciate that very much.
Yes, and with no plans to increase revenue, to only remain revenue neutral.
As much as
But
possible,
won't the
that's
top
because of
category ones get an
cascades.
Increase,
Mhm.
but, I mean, by definition, they're getting it because of state law.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. But we've worked hard that if we go to the next slide, if we were to, so we have our two options, which is accept the revenue decrease, which is $250,000, or come back to maintain neutral revenue impact.
And that
that's
revenue
on-
decrease will still involve it going up for those in.
For those,
that's right.
Correct.
But that's due to state law.
State.
to state. Thank you very much. Okay, any final questions on this?
So now is not a good time to open the mining business.
Well, well, apparently you're very profitable, you know, based on the latest things, you know, so.
You have no competition.
Exactly.
Oh.
You'll have no revenue either, so you won't tax.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank y'all very much.
Any thought, so I'm hearing target neutrality, revenue neutrality, I'm hearing target the, not, you know, exempt.
I wouldn't use the word
entities.
target.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Recalibrate.
Conceptually, I think maintaining our revenue
pursue,
is
yes.
important to the city.
I would wholeheartedly agree.
Good.
And
And
it seems like everybody's on board with us doing the nonprofit registration.
Mm-hmm.
And also we will make the process improvement for the non-resident contract.
yes, yes,
Thank you,
Much.
thank you.
and the
Thank you.
background check.
Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
And so thank you. You all have several items to discuss.
I do have the scenario.
Under 3478-1205 subsections, federal grant implications and agreements, enforcing emissions, potential contract for the sale of property on Fort Falls Boulevard, public comment policy, updates to the city's donation acceptance policy and agreements, potential land purchase on Mayberry Street, an update on the Feed the Change program agreement with UHC under subsections 2 and 5, an update on negotiating lease and acquisition process for Greenland Spartanburg.
sounds good. All in favor, say aye. Nice to have it.